Hello and welcome back. This is Candace with another video on the Possum Stamps YouTube channel, and today I have a very quick and simple sympathy card using some products from the new release. So let's get started. So I'm starting off with my Canson mixed media paper, and this comes in a variety of different sizes from big box stores. And this is a little bit thinner than watercolor paper, but still allows you to move some ink around. So I'm coming in with 3 colors of distress ink, which is wilted violet, picked raspberry, and peacock feathers. And then I just painted on a blob of clean, clear water. And then I'm going to come in and drop in little bits of the ink in different areas and try and get them to kind of play together nicely. You don't want to overwork it, but you do want the inks to blend together. And that's why I use a wet on wet technique. So the inks are naturally going to kind of pool together. Once I'm happy with how that's looking, I am going to use my heat gun to dry it because I don't have a lot of patience. And this card was actually super quick to make, and I think it makes a really nice impact. So I hope you like the technique. So now I'm coming in with the new Loving Thoughts stamp set, and I absolutely love this floral. I thought that this floral was going to hang off my inking and I would have some extra space, but it actually ended up fitting perfectly on my little ink blob, which I didn't plan. And I'm just stamping some black ink that is Copic safe. This is Gina K Amalgam ink, and I stamped that a couple times because the paper does have some tooth to it. Then I used a rectangle die to cut that just a little bit smaller than A2, and then we are going to move on to the coloring technique. So this is an alcohol ink glazing technique, and you can use any alcohol ink markers. You could use your Copics. I'm using my Ahuhus today because my C color Copics are a bit dry. And what I'm doing is I'm coming in with my darkest color, and then my second darkest and third darkest, and I'm just blending that out. And my third color is almost clear. It's a very, very light gray. And then I'm also using my colorless blender to really blend that in and just help the alcohol inks kind of move into the fibers of the paper. And basically these colors are transparent because they're alcohol ink and they're a bit lighter, so it's not going to totally overtake the ink that's underneath, which we applied with our distress watercolor. You could also do this on an ink blended background. I just really like that kind of ethereal look when you see the watercolor around the edges. You can do this technique with any alcohol-based marker. The important thing is that it's alcohol-based because the ink blending or the watercolor that we did underneath is water-based. So the alcohol doesn't have water in it, so it won't reactivate that water, versus if you used a water-based pen, it would reactivate that. And so that's what gives us this magical sort of ethereal look. So for my leaves, I wanted them to look like they're a little bit more in the background. So I came in with one shade darker of my gray just to kind of knock those into the background. And you'll see I am getting a little bit of bleeding, and that's because I am quite heavy-handed when I color with markers, and I'm used to working on my regular 110-pound cardstock, but this is a little bit thinner of a paper and it's mixed media, so sometimes the ink does want to bleed. So you just want to be mindful of that dependent on what paper you're using. If you are using watercolor paper, it is a little bit more forgiving because it tends to be a bit thicker, but I really like how crisp white this paper is. So once I am done my coloring, I am going to use my tape runner, and I'm going to stick this down to another piece of cardstock which I cut out with the same die, just because I did a lot of watercoloring and heat setting on this that I didn't want my paper to be warped and warp my card base with it. Once that's done, we are going to move on to our sentiment. So I originally stuck it down in my MISTI and I pulled in my handy dandy tracing paper to see how that's going to look. And I initially didn't have my tracing paper in the proper position, so I just turned that one more time to double check where my sentiment was. I wasn't super happy with where it was. I wanted it a bit higher, so I just kind of moved my tracing paper up a bit and then realigned my stamp with that. I'm going to check it one more time just to make sure that it's in the right spot because I don't want to lose all of that work I did on my card if I stamp it in the wrong place. And then I'm just going to stamp that a couple times until I have a crisp, clean image. Now I wanted there to be gray around my card, so instead of using a gray card or adding cardstock, I just used my second darkest gray color to color around the edges, and that is going to be the perfect matte for my panel. To finish off the card, I used some embellishments from the new Spring Bling Sequin Mix. This is such a pretty pastel mix with all sorts of little flowers and adorable things, but I just used some of the more clear sequins in the light pastel colors from this and added those to my card. And there we have the final card. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the Possum Stamps YouTube channel so you don't miss any future inspiration from the design team. And I will see you in another video. Bye!